In this installment of the Data Allocation 100 Quick Start series, we're going to be integrating data allocation into a C# test automation framework. The goal of this session is that by the end you will be able to integrate data allocation into your C# automation framework. This is so you can expose the full power of data allocation to your C# framework of finding, making and allocating data to automated test cases. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the test data allocation to specify the test data we require. This can connect into a vast array of backend sources as we've seen. We're going to be tagging our C# Selenium code to reference these data references. When our automation is executed, just in time we're going to go away and make, find and allocate the test data into our automation framework, so that as our automation is running, we have the right data in the right place at the right time to support our testing. So let's jump in and integrate data allocation into our C# framework. Okay, so what we have here is an opportunities page in our CRM that we're going to be testing. And there's two caveats here. Firstly, we must have an account name that exists, and we must also have a campaign name that exists in our backend database. Now, currently what we have is an automated test. Initially what we have here is an automated test that goes through and logs into our CRM and then goes through and enters a name, an account name and a campaign name and an amount, and then clicks save inside that opportunities page. Now the account name and the campaign name that we've been using in our framework is static, and unfortunately we do not have control over knowing what test data is going to be there in our database at runtime. So our automation has become very brittle over time. Now what we're going to do here is integrate our test data allocation into this framework so that just in time we're retrieving the account names and the campaign names we require inside our automation. Now to do this, we've headed over to the test modeler C# client library for data allocation. And what we've firstly done is we have added this project as a dependency in our framework. To do that in Visual Studio, all we've done is we've come over to our project here, right-clicked, gone to manage NuGet packages, and if we take a look at our installed packages here, what you'll see at the bottom is we have linked to the test modeler client library, and that is what we are using inside our framework. So now we've got that embedded, what we're going to firstly do is tag this test and tell it about the data allocations we're using. To do this, all we need to do is add this data allocation tag which appears here. So we'll come in and we'll add that tag to our test. And now we need to replace these parameters. Now the pool name that we're using here is Splendid Dev Team. So we'll copy that and just paste it in here. The suite name that we're going to be using is going to be Create Leads. That's the test suite which our test resides under. And we're going to tag two groups here. The first one is we're going to consume the campaign active and mail group. So we'll add that one in. And the second group that we're going to consume here going to be our find valid account group. So we'll bind that one in. Now what this is telling the framework is that these are data allocations which at runtime we need to resolve for this test to be able to run successfully. Now what we need to do is retrieve the results of these allocations so we can use them inside our automation. Now to do that, what we have is our second snippet of code here, which is going to retrieve our allocation results. So we'll come in here, we'll paste this code in. Now the first allocation result we're going to get is going to be for the account name. The second allocation result we're going to retrieve is going to be for our campaign name. And again, we just need to specify here what types of data we're using from the pool, the suite, finally and crucially the test name. So the campaign we're using is of type active and mail, and we want to pull this down for our campaign name result. And the account we're going to use here is for our find valid account. So we'll just tag that one in as so. Now what we can do is we can replace these static values. So for the account name, we're going to use the allocation result. We're going to get a value by column. And the column name which we're going to pull in is going to be name. And we're just going to map this back to a string as so. Now we'll just do the same for the campaign. We'll get our value by column, and if you remember the key value pair we set up in our allocation was called name. If we have multiple values here, we just need to come in and reference the different column names which we want to pull in, or alternatively, if we have many results coming back, we can get an array of data rows which we can iterate over and have a for loop inside. But here we're just going to get our account name and our campaign name and set them up. Now the final piece which you need to do here is you need to set up a new fixture of a one-time setup which is going to go away and perform our allocations. And what this is going to do is set up a connection profile, initialize our data allocation engine, iterate through all of the allocation types of the tests that are being ran, and then we'll go and resolve the pools at the end. We've just set this up inside our base class here in the top, and you'll see here we've got our setup fixture which has been initialized. Let's take a look at this running. Now we're back inside our test here, and all we need to do is right click and we're going to go to run test to execute this test. And what this is going to do is spin up our allocation framework, and if we take a look here, what we'll see is that we've got a new test allocation coming through, and that is complete. And next what we should see is our automation is going to execute and pull these values on the fly as our test automation is executing. We'll see here the account names and the campaign names got populated. Thanks for watching this video. Any questions, please email james.walker@curiosity.software.